Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Framerate is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This episode of Framerate is brought to you by Squarespace, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. For a free trial and 10% off your first purchase on new accounts, go to squarespace.com and use offer code FRAMERATE2. And they recently launched a developer platform for complete code control.
Harlem Shake.
Oh, dude, you're right. It did break.
It's Framerate. Welcome to Framerate episode 112. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, and I don't know if you know this, Tom, but there's other shows on this fine network, the Twit Network, including my favorite, This Week in Tech, hosted by Leo Laporte. Remember him?
I do. I remember him as the guy who signs my checks. And he also is the host of This Week in Tech, the longest-running show in history.
In the world. We can verify that now, right?
Yeah, I may be off on that.
Right, we can claim it, today, we don't have to verify. We could just claim it. Can we just claim it wildly?
Yeah, we'll call it brand loyalty. Joining us today, we have Dana Brunetti, producer and president at Trigger Street Productions. It's been a while since we had you on the show, Dana. Thanks for coming back, man.
Hey, my pleasure.
We are all in Los Angeles, oddly enough, but all in separate locations, although Brian's right upstairs.
Yeah, this is here. You hear this? Were you able to hear that down there?
Yeah, I was.
I love this. Let's keep doing this.
Don't break it. I just moved in.
Amazing.
So, Dana, congratulations on the launch of House of Cards, man.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was definitely a game changer, and I hope it's the way of things to come.
Now, last time we had you on, how far into development was House of Cards last time we saw you?
When was the last time I was on?
November 2011.
There you go. So about just over a year ago.
Yeah, I was thinking for like Social Network or something. Well, the whole thing came together with me and with Kevin and my involvement, and it was already kind of moving forward with Fincher and Eric Roth and Bo Williman. But when we were shooting Social Network, Fincher approached me about it and asked me if I knew about the show and whether Kevin was a fan. And I started talking to Kevin about it, and it just kind of started working out that, you know, this might be a good program for Kevin to do. And a lot of people didn't think a star of his caliber would want to do television, and he liked it. And a lot of people, a lot of stars are really starting to gravitate to television simply because it's, rather than being condensed into a 2-hour beginning, middle, and end, they have a platform to really build a character and stretch it out for a while. So anyways, we got involved that way, and we started shooting March of last year, I think. Yeah.
So I've got a ton of questions. I'm sure Tom does as well, about the development, about the choice, and the unusual way you guys are releasing. And I don't know how much of this you could talk about, because I'm sure you have internal figures and numbers. But how happy are you after launch at this point? Because I'm sure you guys are seeing some kind of initial returns. I'm sure you're watching the critical feedback, which I assume is all hugely positive, if anyone likes it as much as I do. Like, where are you guys at as far as the launch? Let's begin with the ending, in other words.
Sure. Yeah, it's the critical feedback has been amazing, and really that's all that we're seeing specifically. Netflix keeps everything very internal, but we do know that they're extremely happy. And just having done this a few times with films, I can tell that this is one of the most successful things that we've done of all of our projects. But I know that everybody else is extremely happy who is seeing the data, but we're not going to see that for a while or know that for a while. But I definitely know it's a success.
So, it's a different matter when you're streaming on Netflix, and I imagine it's sort of similar to the way shows are on HBO. You don't have to live and die by that rating, right?
That's exactly right, and it's actually been kind of funny because, like some other executives and even in the media are, almost demanding that we release the numbers, and it's basically it's a new world. The numbers don't really matter. The only numbers that matter are to Netflix, in my opinion, is the bottom line of, are they happy with it, and did it bring them subscribers, and are the subscribers happy with it, and are they going to come back for more?
Well, especially if they're, it's what was the quote that they said recently? They're trying to become HBO faster than HBO can become them. And part of HBO's strategy has always been to have exquisitely high quality programming, because they are more concerned about winning Emmy Awards than they are about viewership numbers on any given night for one of their series. And if Netflix is playing that same game, it genuinely doesn't matter what kind of numbers there are, what percentage of total traffic, or how many new subscribers this drives, as long as the buzz is universally positive and what they're doing is building a reputation for exceptional programming lives on Netflix.
That's correct. And also HBO and Showtime and AMC and FX, all the others that are putting out the great original content now, are all parts of bigger conglomerates. So they have to operate, and they do operate a little bit differently. But if you look at Netflix and you look at what they're doing and how they started and what they're going to, American Movie Channel, AMC, FX, Showtime, HBO, they all started with movies as well, just like Netflix started with movies, and then they moved into the original content and then became known for their original content. And Netflix, we all use it, we all know how it is. It's this huge library of stuff that's sitting there. Some people may not think it's the best library, and it changes, and it's been gradually getting better. But unlike those networks, when they first started, those shows were destination and appointment viewing. This, you go to watch House of Cards, or you subscribe just for House of Cards. But then on top of that, you have seasons of Breaking Bad or Walking Dead or tons of movies or loads of other things that you can go and watch as you want to watch and when you want to watch. And as a lot of people get and say now, it's giving the people what they want, how they want it, and when they want it. And rather than just being on your television, you can have it on your computer screen, you can have it on your phone, you can have it on your iPad. You can watch it in a numerous variety of ways, and whenever you want to watch it, and it's always sitting there waiting for you for $8 a month.
So there are two things that pop into my mind. One is that because of Netflix, at least in the United States, a 30-day free trial that they offer, for the first time you're able to have a major release like this, where Netflix themselves is saying, "Go ahead, America. Sign up, watch it for free, and we dare you to try to cancel the service," because you won't, because you'll discover how awesome it is. That alone is amazing. But specifically, I wanted to ask you, is during the development, during the execution of all this, was it established from day one that this would definitely be a all released at once binge experience, or did you guys not know for sure whether or not this would be a periodic release week over week?
We weren't really sure. I mean, we went into this with a lot of unknowns because we're the first original content for Netflix, and they've never done it. It was kind of a question like, well, how would they release it? Because were they just going to put one up at a time every week? And then that quickly got into, well, we could release them all at once because we know we're shooting it like a movie, all 13 episodes. It's like a 13-hour movie. And then initially there was some talk about doing 3 or 4 episodes in chunks, because Netflix, when the viewers that watch that, like if you go and watch Breaking Bad, you're watching in 3 and 4 episodes at a time, or any type of series, a DVD of The Wire or whatever you're watching. Generally people, if they have the ability to do that, they'll do it in those blocks. So we thought about doing it that way initially. And then as we got closer to the release and we started seeing, the completed episodes, the suggestion was made, we could release all 13, and everybody on the team was agreeable to that, which in a traditional sense, if this was on another network, if that idea ever came up, you'd be laughed at, just like we're being laughed at by the traditional networks while we're doing it on Netflix. It just would have never happened anywhere else. So we were all pretty excited about it because we knew it was a game changer, but we also saw the logic in it. And what you're saying is, yeah, people could sign up for just for the month, take the first episode and then sign up for a month and then cancel, and maybe some people will. But like you've said, it's a bit of a hassle to do that, and then you start watching other things, and it's I guess not really a loss leader, but it's a way to get people in to see what else Netflix has to offer, and they're just going to start using it and getting used to it, and it becomes another channel for them. But
was producing? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
But you could do the same thing with HBO. Like if you were a fan of Sopranos, you could sign up for 2 months and then cancel. Or what you could do now with HBO Go, you could sign up for a month, watch everything after it's already aired, and then cancel and do the same thing just in reverse. So there's not a lot of difference when you really boil it down and think about it.
Was it different producing for Netflix than it would be for producing for a network, or do you still have to run notes by the guys upstairs? How did it differ in that way?
No, so they bought off of the script and basically said, it's David Fincher, us, Eric Roth, Kevin Spacey. It's a pretty good group of people, and they basically are like, look, you guys know what to do and how to do it, and we're not going to meddle in that. We know how to do what we do, and we're going to do that. So just deliver us great material. And they really stayed out of it, although they're building up now and getting more into the traditional network sense of bringing people in, like development people. So we always kind of joked it's great for us, but may not be as great for the fifth show that comes in.
Right. The next show that tries to show character watching Amazon Prime Instant is gonna get a note from upstairs, huh?
Well, and speaking of which, there have been some comments about the nature of products in this, like and if this is not anything that you guys could talk about, I mean, is there any kind of product placement negotiations that happen on this, or is this a case where you guys used what you felt were like natural items for any particular scene?
Yeah, not to my knowledge, there was no product placement deal. I saw the one article about the Apple products all over the table with all the arrows pointing at it. But if anybody knows anything about product placement, Apple doesn't pay for product placement. What we did and all of that was it's real. I mean, you look around my office, you look around a lot of people's offices and places of business. I mean, everyone's carrying iPhones and has Mac laptops. I'm talking to you one on now. There's actually I switched from the iPhone, but it's pretty realistic. And in that particular scene, what he pointed out, they were all listening, and I think that's the one, I could be wrong, where they were listening to the police scanners and pulling different things up. So the apps for that to pull, so they have them laying out to do that. So that's just being nitpicky in my opinion, but it's very realistic. And there was, some people pointed out the fact that Kevin's character, Francis Underwood, says, "Oh, is that the new PS Vita?" And that was done more as a way just to show that he is a gamer and we're not just having him play Killzone just for the fact of playing it like, we're showing that he truly is a gamer. And it's also the audience that is going to be watching this on Netflix is going to be a very technological advanced audience and a smart audience. And so all of that really is just more realistic than any type of placement, because I mean, that would be if we were Sony, that would be a PS Vita placement, and Apple doesn't do placements.
Well, and I'm so glad to hear you say that, because that's almost exactly what we were conjecturing on this show last week or the week before, where if there was any motivation behind scenes like those, to me, it read as, I don't want to say pandering to the audience, but certainly catering to the interest of the audience. There are themes, for example, the dominance of new media versus old media, the demise of newspapers, the idea that late 50s congressmen could be interested in playing a first-person shooter. These are all things that massively appeal to the type of person who's going to watch a series that was created just for the Netflix experience. And personally, I dug it. And if it was pandering, thank you for pandering to me, is all I want to say.
It's really not pandering. It's just realistic, and that's what's happening in the world right now. Twitter is something that's out there. So, and Zoe wanting to go and write her blog, and the battle between old media and new media, that's real world issues, and that's stuff it's realistic. So I don't think it's pandering or catering at all. It's just we're keeping it realistic and going with what's reality.
I like the fact too that you see different real networks on TV. When they're watching the news, you see CNN, you see ABC. A lot of times, television networks will make their shows back off of that and show sort of a generic network that doesn't really exist.
It's funny. Well, we did have some generic ones that we sprinkled in there just so we had more. It's funny you mentioned Amazon Prime, though, because it would be, I don't know how the reaction would be to that if we had somebody viewing like Hulu Plus or Amazon Prime. Right. We might end up in that same scenario. But yeah, I mean, it's a new world, but there's going to be other things that are going to be similar that eventually we could run into. But yeah, we had fun doing it, even like with the text messaging. And we had it popping up on the screen, and Bo was always, and Bo's a younger guy too, so he was always on that. We have to have Twitter involved in this. We have to have all of social media aspect of this. We have to, they not picking up phones, calling all the time. A lot of things has to be done how it's really done in the real world, and a lot of that's done through email and through text messages.
Yeah, I definitely. Right down to, ooh, wow, that was a moment.
Although people still do
scripted? Call. Did this just happen?
Whatever.
I think that's one of the things that I enjoyed was, in some regards, the phone, the type of phone, the brand of phone that people were using, in some way spoke to the character of them. So you forgive me if I got this mixed up, but you have a congressman using a BlackBerry, talking to the new media superstar using an iPhone. I agree. It seems like that's the way things are now.
Yeah, and if you look at that in real life, most people like that are going to be carrying the BlackBerry, at least now. And then, others in the media side and people like Zoe are going to be carrying an iPhone.
So I do have one question. And forgive me if I'm putting you on the spot here, but what is the biggest surprise that you did not expect to have, whether it be a freedom that you didn't think you'd have, or an issue that you didn't think would be a problem, or the very nature of this type of product or project is obviously unique. What was one moment that popped out to you where it's like, wow, this is a totally unique to making this for Netflix type of problem?
When they bought 2 seasons off of the pilot.
Well, that works.
Yeah, sorry, my phone keeps ringing. They didn't turn my ringer off. Yeah, no, I mean, right then we knew that this was a completely different way of doing things, and that we were going to have the creative control that guys like me and Fincher and Kevin always want. And Bo was basically given the ability to go off to the writing room and write what he wanted, and we gave our notes back and forth, and it was a pretty easygoing process. We initially thought we were going to go with another network, and then it was like a last-minute meeting came in, and all the other networks just wanted to do a pilot, and then, as traditional networks do, and then put everybody on a hold and wait, and then see how it does, see how it tested, do all of that, and then decide how many episodes they're going to pick up after that. Where Netflix is basically like, we'll take 2 seasons and go. And so we got a call over the weekend. I was actually with Kevin, and Kevin, funnily enough, didn't know what Netflix was at the time because he was living in London.
What?
Because Netflix didn't exist in London. They had Love Film.
Did you have to explain that it's the Love Film of America? Would this be the one time that Netflix was described that way?
Yeah, so it basically, we were both on a phone out on each side of the room, and it was Fincher that was talking to us and said, "Look, but this is how we're going to do it. It's on Netflix. We all want to do it. What do you guys think?" And Kevin, he was kind of like, "What? I don't know," and because your name. Like, what the hell is this, Netflix? And I'm on the other phone and going, you are doing this. This is, because I knew right then that this was a game changer. It was going to change the history of television. And this was a big deal. And so he kind of looked at me and was like, okay, great, let's do it. And then I gave him the full education after we hung up the call. And, he's very tech savvy. And once something's explained to him, he gets it. And is all about doing things better and doing things more efficiently and shaking things up a bit. So after that, he got super excited about it, and everybody's been excited the whole way through, kind of, pinching ourselves the whole way through, all the way, even now, because it could not have gone any better from the beginning to release.
Do you think this is actually opening the floodgates to people pitching Netflix? Do you think Netflix is going to start greenlighting more shows now?
Well, yeah, they're already going to more original content. They're doing Orange is the New Black. They're doing Arrested Development, which a lot of people know. They're doing the horror bit with Eli Roth, and they're doing. They just announced a first look deal for film with Queen Latifah's company. So they're starting to go more into it, but they're being very selective and very careful about what they get, which is the same thing that all of these other networks that we talked about did, like HBO, Showtime, and AMC and FX. They're trying to make sure that they take the best material that they can get. And so they're going to continually grow, and it is now part of their model from what I can see, and as that headline said, they want to become HBO faster than HBO can become them.
Well, congratulations, man. I mean, Tom and I couldn't be happier with what we've seen so far. I think we're both about halfway through the entire House of Cards experience, but it's so awesome to have a friend of the show doing so well. Driving around here in LA, seeing the giant billboards with Kevin Spacey on them. I mean, you just have to be over the moon with how everything's gone. Yeah, no,
it's fantastic, and we start shooting a second season, and end of March or beginning of April, we're still figuring out some schedules, and we go back into doing it. And also, it's actually very economical and efficient to know that we have 13 seasons to go, because we took over this huge warehouse in Maryland and basically soundproofed it and built it out, and pretty much every interior that you see in that in the show is shot within this warehouse. We built his whole house inside there. We built Zoe's apartment inside there. The White House is in there, the Capitol, his office, all those hallways, all of that is inside this gigantic warehouse in Maryland. And there's actually a big room in the middle that we made for green screen, and that whole inauguration scene was shot in there, and then we just laid all the audience in, and a lot of the driving stuff is done in that room. So we're a pretty self-contained, efficient unit. We just have to go to DC occasionally to get some exteriors, and then outside in Baltimore occasionally to get some of the exteriors there. But it's a pretty neat experience.
Do you know when season 2 would go up?
Say again?
Do you know when season 2 would go up?
I don't. We don't know that yet. I mean, I have some ideas of where season 2 is going, but they're in the writing room now, starting that all out, and basically the war room, laying it all out on the walls of where all the characters and everything are going. So, I mean, you can't possibly tell until we start shooting.
Excellent. Well, I add my congratulations too on a great launch and an excellent series. I'm really enjoying it. Dana, you're a podcaster as well, as we all know. You don't mind hanging around talking some other frame rate stories with us, do you?
Love to.
All right, let's do it, man. Let's get into another big story.
Stop everything. It's another big story.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, CEO of DreamWorks, says that he thinks the future of movies will be charging by the inch. Not talking about film. We're talking about the inch size of the screen. He says that people will pay less to watch movies and TV shows on a mobile phone, and that will create higher consumption, especially in developing markets like India, where cell phones are widely used.
Hold on. You seem skeptical. Hold on. Explain that half smirk you got right now. What's going on here? What do you think?
Well, I am always skeptical of business models that try to fake something. And paying by the inch, it's one of those things where at first you're like, oh, well, yeah, of course, if I'm watching a smaller movie and I get to pay less for it, that's great. Maybe with streaming that would work because it just detects what device you're on. But usually streaming plans are all you can eat. Like I pay by the month. When I download a file, what we're all pushing for is once I buy the movie, I own the movie. And if all of a sudden it's like, well, you bought the file for this movie, but you only bought the rights to watch it on a small screen because you paid 79 cents, that's where it starts to fall apart for me.
So I remember speaking of our sister program, This Week in Tech, I remember hearing an old argument about charging by the bit for internet access because it's an artificial, metric. And I remember John C. Dvorak saying, well, you got to charge by something. And the idea that you have to have some kind of surrogate for the user experience, whether or not it's perfect or not, kind of stuck with me. And in this case, charging by the inch, I think is an acceptable substitute to mean the fidelity of experience when you're looking.
You're talking about charging by resolution.
Sure, right.
Charging by the inch that's different than resolution.
Okay, well, let's say that they clarify. Let's say somebody comes up with a new standard, and it's called the Brian and Tom standard. And the way it works is whatever device you're on, it looks great at the resolution scales to the size of device. Obviously, what you need for a 4K display is not what you need for a 3-inch display to get a roughly equivalent experience. And so then, you scale. Yeah, it makes sense to charge less for the 3-inch experience or the 320 by 280 experience, or we'll say, versus the 4K experience. Anything that encourages, if this is the psychological backdoor that allows big studios to pretend like they always intended to start dropping the prices of their movies, then I'm okay with it. Whatever drives down the cost for even one type of the experience, I feel like will only grow the audience. It'll only encourage more people to watch. It will seduce markets that right now are turning entirely to piracy. And if they can be offered something so cheap that that it's easier, if we can give, like here in America, it's Steam that's making an entire generation of former video game pirates into video game payers. If we can bring that to them by offering a cheaper price for cell phone sized movies, then that's okay by me. I'm 100% behind it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. If it's cheaper for lower resolution, that's fine. Although cell phones are capable of doing high def video, so I'm not sure how it's going to go over with people. I'm interested what Dana thinks.
Well, it's not going to work because resolution is that's one thing. There's you pay a difference for SD or HD now when you're on iTunes or some of the other services, so you might pay a little bit more for HD. But where everything is going, I think, is your iPhone to sling it to your television. So what happens then? If you're buying something for your iPhone, that's 79 cents that you are going to sling to your television. I can see the paying less for SD as opposed to HD, and I think Brian's onto something. And where I think it's ultimately going to go, I think the audience should determine the price of things the same way as the audience determines the price of a DVD in a DVD bin. There's a lot of movies that end up in a DVD bin, and that's how things should be. Things should just be put on sale, and you can buy this movie for 99 cents and own it. And then maybe a few weeks later, another service has it, and it's $9.99. You just happen to get it at this other place for 99 cents. And I think that's all got to start to level out. But doing it by the inch, it's just silly.
Yeah, I don't think you can auto-detect for screen size and build a deal on that. But I think Brian's onto something with maybe not just standard def versus high def, but like, all right, you don't want to pay as much, we'll give you a discount if you're getting a lower quality copy. Just a DVD is cheaper than a Blu-ray now.
Yeah, and if the purpose is to truly get people who are going to actually watch it on their cell phone, then they're concerned about two things. They're like, how do I use the least amount of bandwidth so that I can download it as fast as possible? And how do I pay the least amount of money? And offering a special version that is sub-standard def quality. The idea, because right now, if I pitch like, hey, I have an idea that'll save Hollywood, we're going to offer a lower than standard def quality of movie, nobody's going to buy that. But if what I say is, it's a special new thing, we're going to charge by the inch, where there's a special version just for cell phones that's only, 49 cents per copy or whatever. Then you create a new category and you set a new set of rules that I feel like opens up a new market that is completely unserved right now.
Yeah, I don't even think you have to do a lot of marketing there. Just say, like, this copy's 49 cents at 79, at the right price. And everybody's like, I don't even care what it looks like. Sure.
Maybe.
I'm in. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor for today's show, Squarespace. Fast and easy way to create a high-quality website, blog, online portfolio. You're putting together a project out there, and you're thinking, I know exactly what I want to say. I know the pictures I want to show, but I am not a designer. I'm not a web coder. I don't know anything about creating HTML. I don't know about network reliability. It's giving you a headache. Go check out squarespace.com. They give you the best mobile experience. They make it fast and easy to use. It's 100% drag and drop functionality. They integrate social media. It's exceptionally well designed, and they integrate all those things that could give you a headache: domains, design, development, hosting, customer support, all in one place, unified service, making it faster and easier than ever to create a high-quality website, blog, or online portfolio. But you don't have to take our word for it. Go try it out. You can get a free trial. You don't have to give them a credit card or nothing. Upload one of those images, see how they take it, turn it into 7 different sizes so it looks right on every device. See those mobile responsive designs. See how easy it is to build a page. And then if you do decide to keep it, we think you might want to because it's pretty amazing. No credit card needed to try it, but if you decide to keep it, use the offer code FRAMERATE2 and get 10% off your first purchase on new accounts. That's squarespace.com. Use that offer code FRAMERATE2, everything you need to create an exceptional website. And we thank Squarespace for their support of FrameRate. Now it's time for the things that bring us the things we like to watch, the Slipstream.
Wait, did you just say the wrong intro for the wrong segment? Is that what just happened?
The things that bring us the things we like to watch. This is the services.
Okay, all right. Because I could have sworn that the things
being like
things
YouTube.
were tube tops. Okay,
different thing.
Different things. You were using the meta things. I was thinking the physical things. Got it.
Right. I was using the object version of things. Sorry, I should have made that clear. Google has signed a deal to launch a new YouTube app on the free-to-air UK satellite TV service FreeSat. FreeSat gives you free over-the-air and also gives you things like BBC's iPlayer integrated into the box. So this is actually could have gone into tube tops, I guess, but it's about the YouTube app launching on there. And that's one of the things YouTube has lagged behind, where you see Netflix and almost always Hulu right next to it on almost every service you look at. You don't always see YouTube. YouTube's not on Roku, and it wasn't on FreeSat.
Yeah, dude. Look, this is just more, as we often do on this show, we just have to report more permeation of more services to more devices. And, it's like it's a little bit weird when we're in the United States and this is a service for the UK. So it's hard for me to get personally excited about it, but I'm certainly very excited about the trend.
Well, it's more choices, right? Yeah, exactly. More choices, more places. Here's one that's probably more interesting. Amazon's Hulu move is what paid content is calling it. They're going to stream the show Under the Dome. That's the Stephen King show that's coming to CBS this summer on Amazon Instant Streaming 4 days after air. Now, this is unusual for CBS to do something that close to airtime for streaming. And Amazon Instant has not had in-season streaming before. Amazon also gets an exclusive on selling downloads of Under the Dome during the season. How important does this seem to you, Dana?
Is it going to have commercials?
No. Well, no.
Oh, so why don't call it the Hulu move. Call it the better than Hulu move because there's no freaking commercials. I like your style.
Yeah, I mean, it shows where they're going. There's a 4-day lag from when you watch it on television to here, but at least it's there. I am curious though whether or not it'll have commercials in it though. Because that's one thing that drives me crazy about Hulu Plus that I pay for, but I still have to go through commercials. Excuse me. And again, it's going to come down to the quality of the show of whether or not it's even worth talking about.
Yeah,
Now,
Amazon Instant has never put commercials in anything, so I would not expect it to be an exception in this case.
I didn't think about that aspect of things, Tom, because we've talked about, in many ways, Dana, what we're watching is the monopoly game of new media happening. And you got, we'll say 4 major players, and essentially they're landing on the properties and they're buying them up as fast as they can. Sometimes you get a monopoly where you own all the episodes of a thing. For example, Netflix has bought all of House of Cards, and they're building the hotels all over it. And as a consumer, and I'm normally everything free market for everything. But I cannot wait for everyone to hurry up and buy all the properties so that I would rather pay $10 to 4 services and get all the content than this grind that we're in right now where it's this spotty, sometimes things are available here, sometimes not there. And so my question to you, what you have implied, and this is what I like, is that it could be that once all the properties are bought in this game, it could be that the mere fact that Amazon Prime is outperforming Hulu with in-season episodes minus the ads, all of a sudden Hulu ends up looking like the odd man out with this antiquated, wait, I'm paying you and I get ads thing. Once that happens, once all the properties are bought, is there a place, can Hulu even survive still showing us ads?
It will come down to content though, but I'm already there when I pay for a service like Hulu and I have to wait for ads. It's like, why am I paying for this, but I have ads and I could just DVR these shows. So my personal opinion on all of this is it's going to come down, just like networks with how they survive now. And their ad revenue depends on the quality of the shows, and the quality of the shows determines how many people that come to view it. It's a circle. With like Netflix and Amazon, they rely on the subscribers, same as like HBO and others. They rely on the subscribers. So the subscribers are only going to come based on their viewing experience. And the viewing experience is going to be the quality of the show. And if you're throwing ads in on top of making them pay for it, I think that's going to degrade the quality or the viewing experience.
Certainly.
All right, we've got the BBC experimenting as well. Their iPlayer is now going to be premiering shows before they hit television. So forget this 4-day waiting period after it airs. BBC is going to take 40 hours of programming over the next year and put it online before it reaches TV screens. Now, they haven't talked about what shows or how many episodes of shows, but with the way series work in the BBC, that could cover several seasons, as we call them, of different shows.
Do you think this is a vote of confidence for the digital experience as being superior to the broadcast experience? Or is this, I mean, I feel weird even saying this, but is this some kind of insulting, like, sure, give it away free digitally before? Nobody cares about that anyway. People watch television on television.
I think it's a way to get people talking about it online and basically a bit of advertising. So it makes a lot more people aware of it. So for the appointment viewing, when it is on television, it's already out there in the Twitterverse and on Facebook, and people have already built up a buzz about it. And then so when they see it on television, as they're kind of flipping through or they're setting their DVRs, and where it's going to have an impact on their viewership. I think it's more of a marketing thing than anything.
The Telegraph is speculating that the BBC is actually trying to juice viewership on the iPlayer, because they say about only 2% of the viewership watches shows online. So it may be, and the BBC has a different model, right? They make their money off of service fees. So it may be that they're trying to actually push people online, which is different than what most of the broadcast commercial networks are trying to do.
Well, if you remember when HBO Go launched, they did it with Game of Thrones, where you could watch at the end of the 1 week's episode, the week that they launched HBO Go, you could watch the following week or the next week of Game of Thrones, but only on HBO Go. So it got everybody to download HBO Go to watch next week's episod of Game of Thrones.
Right. I forgot all about that.
And the BBC has done stuff like that with one episode here and there. But what was implied in this decision is that they would have a whole season of a television show and have it premiered online every week before it airs. That's weird.
Season, or doing it each week?
Well, we call a season. They call it a series, but same thing. That's the implication here anyway.
Is every episode going to be available at once, like what we did with
No, I would imagine not. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they'll take a cue from you.
Maybe they'll steal your thunder. How does it feel now to be a pioneer, sir?
Hey, I love that, because it would definitely show that the tides are shifting. But again, if they're releasing it a week before each episode releases on television, I still think that it then helps. It builds viewership as predicted there. They could build viewership in the iPlayer, but also it helps promote the show for the regular television views as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Hulu is doing a different thing in Japan. They're premiering a theatrical release movie on Hulu.jp, but only for the first 3,000 people and only for 3 hours. So you not only have to be one of the first 3,000 people that get to it, but you've only got 3 hours to watch it.
This is the worst idea I've ever heard in my entire life. It's like what is great about the digital experience is that you have the ability to watch content on your terms. And if there's one thing we've seen through DRM discussions is that people are not fond of artificial scarcity in the digital marketplace. So to make a giant PR event of a limited release, this thing's going to be on BitTorrent within 20 minutes of this happening, and it's going to be because they made it too restrictive too fast.
I agree. I would like to know the thinking behind that, because it doesn't make any sense to me at all.
The movie's called Suga no Isu, and it seems like the idea is to promote people going to the theater, like build up a bunch of buzz and attention. We'll see how well it works for them.
Good luck with that mixed message. Let me tell you something. Consumers, not so good on nuance. They want one simple message and saying, it'll be free online, followed by for a few hours, only when it releases, only the first 3,000 of them. Also, please don't put this on BitTorrent. Also, if you miss that window, don't search for it because you might find some place to see it online. In fact, it's not free online. We didn't say any of this. We're not here.
In fact, we never made this movie. Go back to
right.
Finally, Sony has renewed its deal with Starz, and the only reason we're mentioning it here is that Netflix, kind of stunned the world a little bit when they made the deal with Disney. Disney movies now will be going to Netflix instead of Starz. They weren't so lucky with Sony. Sony's decided to stick with Starz. So I don't know how hard Netflix was fighting, or even if they were fighting to get that. But it's not like Netflix is winning all of the deals out there. Let's move on to the tube tops. Tube Tops is all about the devices type things that we use to watch the other things.
The physical things as opposed to the virtual services networks.
There's an FCC filing for a Roku 4200X that popped up. The only thing we know about it is that it's smaller than the current Rokus. Current Rokus are about 3.3 inches on each side. This one's 2.25 inches. Otherwise, there's no other specs in the filing. We have seen them file things pretty close to release date in the past, so we might want to keep your eyes open for the next couple of weeks, see if Roku comes out with a new model.
Now, is this the right direction? Let's assume, and of course, this is all rampant speculation. Let's assume this is an equivalent horsepower for Roku, just on a smaller footprint. Are you worried about the footprint of your Roku? Do you feel, which would you rather see, more power or a smaller unit?
The 3.3-inch unit is almost getting too small for me. Like, if the HDMI cable is too kinked, it actually tilts my Roku up because it's so small and light.
I mean, I guess the only way I'm excited about this is if I hear that it's substantially more powerful and gives you, like, I'm at the point now where I will pay hundreds of dollars extra to shave off, half of a second every time I click a button at this point. I want low latency, fast, seamless experiences on everything, and I don't care how big the device is to do it.
Yeah, I don't want the things to be huge, but this is just all we know about it. So who knows? Maybe there's going to be and it's super powerful as well. We'll have to wait and see.
And Tom
Dishes
gets
Hopper,
up from Brian's speculation corner and walks out of the room. So long, Tom.
Dishes Hopper with Sling Whole Home DVR, the one that CBS required CNET to take away the Best of CES award from, and then CEA went and gave it back to him. That one's now available. You can get it nationwide here in the U.S. So have at it. Who knows? CBS may stop this in court from being sold someday. But right now, you can get what is considered by some to be the best product unveiled at the Consumer Electronics Show in January.
So, Tom, we've talked about what the producers of the Hopper think. We've talked about what CBS, a content producer, thinks in terms of how it wants to tell its minions what to do. But I'd really be curious to, as a content producer who's in a unique location, Dana, are you familiar with what the Hopper does and why it was voted best of CES?
Yeah, no, I think it's great technology, and everybody's going to have that soon, and you're going to have one box in your house that slings it everywhere.
Yeah, it's just reality. Face it.
Yeah.
Get used to it, folks. And those are your tube tops. Let's move on to the Film Found. The Pirate Bay Away from Keyboard, or TPB AFK, is a free documentary available in many places on YouTube, among others. And who tipped us off to this, Brian?
You know what? Somebody, I forgive me, I don't remember the name of the person who mailed it, but it was somebody who sent it in to fr@twit.tv, and we get a lot of these, so forgive me if I can't remember who sent us what. But I found myself in an interesting moral conundrum. Basically, the message said, hey, this came out a couple of days ago, and I clicked on it, and I got on Twitter to plug it, because watching the first 5 minutes, it is an exquisitely well-shot documentary. In fact, there was a brief moment that the quality of filmmaking was so good, I was afraid that maybe it was like a mockumentary or a fake or a fictionalized version of it. But in fact, what this is the actual documentary of the trial of the boys who created the Pirate Bay and how they deal with things real time. It's gorgeous and beautiful. And when I went to go post it, I suddenly realized, like, oh, wait, when I went to their website, it said it cost $10. But then there were only two options: either pay $10 for the movie or download it for free on torrents. And I was like, well, is it bad that I'm watching it on YouTube? But then I noticed that the YouTube was posted by the production company who actually made it. So it's what a weird world we live, where the quality of production and the beauty, the cinematography, can be completely independent of how much studio money is thrown at a thing. And obviously they have their own agenda for making this movie, and I'm sure it's, not exactly the most even-handed representation of the argument we would ever see. But I think it's a fascinating piece of the propaganda war that's happening on this. And I've only seen the first 10 minutes, but I'm really, really interested to watch the rest.
Yeah, it is a well done documentary, and like you said, I haven't had time to watch it either. But skipping through it, there's some fascinating peeks into the lives of the folks that make the Pirate Bay. George R.R. Martin is got a deal with HBO. He's going to be executive producer of the Game of Thrones series for 2 more years, and he's got a development deal to come up with new show ideas. Now, people who would like him to be writing the next book in the Song of Ice and Fire series may be dismayed by this, but he could possibly do all of this and still write. He's discussing Dunk and Egg, which is a spin-off series within the Song of Ice and Fire universe. He's pitching Tough Voyaging as a TV series. He even says that Wild Cards is being worked on as a movie collaboration between Sci-Fi and Universal, with Melissa Snodgrass having just delivered her first draft of the script, and that he has confirmed a movie version of Fever Dream is in the works. So if you like more George R.R. Martin, you may not get the book you want right away, but you're going to have a lot of George R.R. Martin-inspired stuff to watch, sounds like.
I'm kind of over George R.R. Martin being the only hand that can touch Game of Thrones. Like, now that I've seen his vision of Westeros and that world exquisitely represented in another medium, like, if he died tomorrow, and of course that's everybody's crudely
worst
spoken
nightmare.
Fear.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't know that we'd be screwed. I'm pretty sure, since the word is he's explained to certain people in the know how everything's supposed to be wrapped up. Wouldn't it be great if, like, in one more book, we could just sort of wrap everything up the way that the creator intended, with maybe a few less passages about how good this food was and how the smoked crackling pig was awesome, and then this child got raped? I mean, it's like, I wouldn't mind. I'm no longer afraid of him not finishing it with his own hands. And instead, I'm actually into this. I think this is a good thing. I've read the first 2 Wild Cards books. Wild Cards was not written by George R.R. Martin, but it was produced by him. He wrote a few of the stories, but essentially it was all science fiction authors taking a very scientific, real-life approach to what would happen, almost like Watchmen, if in real life we had people with superpowers. And I enjoyed it immensely. I just want to see more of these flavors. And now that I've seen somebody besides George R.R. Martin handle that world so well, I'm less worried about him being the only one who can ever finish it.
Schnago in the chat room wants to know why no Food Network deal.
It was a cheap shot. Shame
I know.
on you.
I actually wouldn't mind saying. Are you a fan of Game of Thrones, Dana?
I love Game of Thrones. But I agree with what Brian's saying. And actually, the next story that you guys are going into, I feel the same way about that.
Oh,
yeah, Gabe Newell and J.J. Abrams on stage together delivering a keynote at the DICE Summit. That's a video gaming conference. Discussed a lot of the differences between storytelling in video games and movies, and then at the very end said, "Hey, let's work together." J.J. Abrams wants to do a video game, and Gabe Newell wants to turn Half-Life and Portal into movies. So
okay, was it explicitly said those properties as movies or that kind of thing? Because when I've read differing reports.
Well, Newell said, we're also interested in working with you guys on movies. We're going to see if we can make a Portal movie or a Half-Life movie.
Oh, that would be dreadful. I would hate to see that. I would much rather see them develop something new. I mean, maybe a Half-Life movie. But I'll tell you this much. This surprised me that this was even news, because essentially what they were saying was J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell like each other and want to do things together, which they've already done. When Portal 2 came out, it came with an interactive version of the trailer for Super 8. We showed it right here on Frame Rate. So it's like, without any specifics, without any announcements, there's kind of no news to this to me. I mean, not that I'm not excited. I'm thrilled to see those guys getting along and having their bromance, but I don't know. I didn't really see what of substance we saw come out of this.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Really?
A little interactive trailer means that when J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell get up on stage in front of hundreds of people and say, yes, I want to work on a movie with you. Yes, I want to work on a video. That's not news.
Tom, I want to build a giant robot with you. Is that news? Is that news that you and I who have worked together already in the past?
They're saying.
I don't see on Google News. I don't see no Brian Brushwood and Tom Merritt to build a giant robot together article coming out.
Dana, talk some sense into this man.
See, he makes a good point, Tom.
Killing me.
It is all about hype and, making news out of stuff that's really not news. And look, I got, 30 projects on my board that will never come to fruition or make it to a screen. And JJ, he's now doing, he's doing Star Wars, he's doing Star Trek, which is just so weird to me, and then probably doing Star Trek 3. So he's got a lot going on. So I don't really think it's news just because of what Brian said. It's like they ran each other. I'm in parties all the time, and you'll see big director go to big star and say, we should work together. And they go, yeah, that's great. But when they do it on stage like that in front of people, it then becomes a bit of a story. But we'll see if something comes of it. It's not going to be anytime soon, though, because JJ's card's a little full.
You're right. You're talking sense. I'll give you that. But I think the nerdgasm that happened in that room is probably the news story there.
That blew it up was it was nerdgasm because you had those two together. But we'll see.
All right, let's finish up with a trailer for a BBC America series, Orphan Black, featuring Tatiana Maslany in the lead role of an orphan whose life changes dramatically after witnessing the suicide of herself. So it's creepy enough right there, right? You're following along. You're like, wait a minute, didn't I see this series before? Somebody who looks like somebody takes over their life, et cetera, et cetera. But the twist is, when you get to the end of this trailer, she realizes there are more of her out there. So what is the deal with that? I don't know. Does this sound interesting to you guys?
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? Like, BBC is this is what's great about the increasingly smallifying world of broadcast television and of media. Like, there was a time when I was a kid, like, PBS was this bizarre other land where stuff like Doctor Who existed that maybe somebody thought was a good idea. It sounded so weird from my Saturday morning cartoons that occasionally I'd venture all the way over to PBS to check out something like this. Nowadays, BBC is that thing. And I think it's great that it's made on another part of the world, because as all of us come together in this global marketplace of media consumption, part of me wants to go to something like this for more exotic storytelling.
That was the first time I watched a trailer was today, and I didn't know anything about the show. But the girl looks sexy, the show looks cool, but where does it take place? Does it take place in Britain, or does it take place here in America?
Well, they've all got English accents, so I was assuming it's taking place in London.
But if you look at the license plate on the car, that's not a British.
Really?
And when she says,
well, maybe it's in New York then.
Ooh.
Yeah, $75,000, not pounds.
Mm-hmm. Nope, you're right. And that's the subway. That's not the underground.
But everybody's British. I didn't get it.
Maybe it's Toronto? Oh.
Toronto, the home of all things mysterious and weird.
All right, let's move on to what we're watching. What we're watching. Obviously, we're all watching House of Cards. But Dana, when I do interviews with authors on Sword and Laser, I've learned never to ask them what they're reading, because they're like, I'm an author. I never have time to read anything. Do you watch a bunch of television?
I love television. I watch more television than movies.
So what are you watching these days?
Well, Walking Dead, which started last night. But now I got to wait till next week to see the next episode. So old school.
Right.
What else? I love Shark Tank. That's a little secret pleasure of mine. But others that aren't on yet, Game of Thrones that we talked about, love that. And I'm not a medieval type of guy and didn't think I would get into it. Got sucked into it like crazy. Homeland, big fan of that. What else? It's hard you put me on the spot here. You guys go into one of yours and I'll jump in and agree.
Have you watched Archer?
No, I haven't. On Netflix?
You got to catch up.
I'm going to back up Tom on this one. It's like I used to like there's TiVo lovers, Apple fans, and Archer fans. Like the three most annoying advocates of like, you got to watch it. Like we have joined the Archer fan. Like you got to watch it. Sorry.
Oh, another that I've been watching a lot is, and it's actually on Hulu Plus, the new the season 8 or whatever it is Peep Show.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched that. I've heard that's great though. It's in season 8.
It's on. I think it's season 8. Yeah.
Holy cow!
Third episode. I think you can go to the season 1 on Hulu, or actually on Netflix. I think they have the full seasons, just not the new season.
Right.
And Brian, you've just been doing a marathon, huh?
Dude, okay, I'm not going to lie. Maybe about a year ago, you probably heard me talking up how good Cartoon Network's primetime shows were with Adventure Show and Adventure Time and Regular Show. Sorry, I did it again. But I had watched maybe like 5 or 6 episodes of Regular Show, enough to know that I really dug it. But then, and enough to recommend it to my brother over the holiday break and show him an episode. Like, no, seriously, you'd love it. And then my brother starts calling me, just sounded like a weirdo who's like cracked out or something. And then finally I figured out that he's been watching all of them. He's watched all of them. And we sat down and watched a marathon of like 12 episodes. Like I liked Regular Show, but watching them all straight through, I'm like, this show was clearly written for a man in his late 30s. And I don't know why it's on Cartoon Network. It is so over the top, like references to like they got all these shortcuts for when they're killing someone, or when somebody's doing drugs, or when somebody's cracked out in a meth den, or when somebody's cursing or dying. I mean, it's I cannot understand why this show is on Cartoon Network, but I love it. Like I absolutely love it, and it's so clearly made for me. If you are a male above age 30, watch Regular Show on Cartoon Network. Just watch the first 3 episodes when they come out on Netflix in a month or so.
It's called
Regular Show. It's amazing.
And you can't get it streaming yet?
Not yet, as far as I know. I know that I don't want to speculate on where you could get it. But in fact, I don't know where Jay got it, and I'm not asking any questions. But I will. But obviously, we do know that Regular Show is coming to Netflix next month in March.
Okay, let's finish up with some feedback.
Now it's time for feedback with Brian and Tom on Frame Rate. Oh, yeah.
Got an email from Faris who says, Dear Tom and Brian, I just saw an advertisement on Canal Plus channel in Spain for House of Cards. It was in English with Spanish subtitles. The series starts on Thursday, 21st of February on Canal Plus, and I'm guessing it will be serialized. I thought, same as you, that would only be available on Netflix. So it's getting distributed around the world, Dana.
Yeah, so Netflix bought it from us for certain territories, and then we're selling it to the rest of the world. So it'll be...
I thought this was interesting because this was essentially the inverse of the way Lilyhammer went. You know, Lilyhammer was created in a certain market, and the only way it got to America, or the exclusive in the United States, was through Netflix. So this is the reverse. This is Netflix creating it and then finding other territories where they're putting it on traditional distribution, which, like, does that affect you at all? Do you feel one way or the other about it, Dana?
Well, it's much better for me, because if this was a deal with the traditional network, they would own it for the rest of the world and sell it out, where Netflix has their territories and then we own it for everywhere else. So we actually, as a producing team and entity, do much better financially.
Awesome.
What's some of the places that it will be able to be shown? Because I know we have a lot of people around the world watching the show.
It'll be sold to the rest of the world, every territory we can sell it in.
So just look for it soon. It'll be coming to your town, one would hope. And finally, Charles from Pittsburgh says, I wanted to recommend you check out Chosen. It's CH:OS:EN on Crackle. It's a Crackle exclusive starring Milo Ventimiglia, and it actually has some value to it, he says.
That's a rousing speech that you've given in support of it.
Think booth at the end from the view of the task taker. Also, that's interesting. Also, check out Twonky on PC and iPhone, iPad, allowing you to beam your TV shows from YouTube, VO, Comedy Central, and others. Even cut and paste URLs. Does require the Twonky app to be installed on your device, such as Roku. And it's a cool tip. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Well, that is it for this episode of Frame Rate. Dana Brunetti, thank you, sir. Always good to have you on the show. Anything you want to let folks know about, where to follow you, what you're doing online, any URLs you want to throw out there?
They can always get me on Twitter at Dana Brunetti. And aspiring filmmakers and screenwriters, TriggerStreet.com is still up. It's actually labs.triggerstreet.com if you want to put your screenplay or short film up. And then that's it. Check out House of Cards. And the next film that'll be out will probably be in October, which I did with Tom Hanks that Paul Greengrass directed.
Right on. Congratulations again on the launch, Dana. I think what you're being a part of is truly important. And 20 years from now, I look forward to being able to talk about this experience of getting to share the launch with you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
You can find us on the web, twit.tv/FR. You can always email us, framerate@twit.tv. And we are live.twit.tv every Monday at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. We'll see you next time.
All right. Let's see here. Hold on. Can't hear you. There you go.
Signing off.
Did we want to do a spoiler zone?
I mean, you guys could talk about Walking Dead. Can I be honest? Like, I'm so kind of meh on the series at this point. I don't even mind being spoiled. I'll hang around and you can spoil the crap out of it for me. I'm so kind of defeated by.
So you're not even going to watch it?
No, I'll watch it, but I don't care if you tell me what happens. I mean, let me guess. Someone does something for no rational reason, and then someone else makes a stupid decision that puts everyone in peril, and then zombies and guts.
Start of the episode.
All right, so is this a yes or no?
Bring it. Start the spoiler zone. Yeah.
Silent breed is people!
Start of the episode is the end of the last episode of last season. Merle and Daryl being forced to fight each other. You don't want, I mean, just that's like watching Kirk and Picard.
You know what? I haven't seen it. Let me guess. Both survive. Am I right? I didn't even put it in an envelope.
But how?
I don't care. That's the problem, is I really should care, but I don't believe them at this point. Walking Dead is falling into the Heroes trap. Heroes season 1 was a lot of fun because everything felt like there was stakes. But by season 2, it was clear that everybody was made of rubber, and no matter what happened to someone, they'd be back next week. And while they have killed characters off before, I don't believe them. They're not going to kill Merle. They're not going to kill Daryl.
They have a lot of new characters, though, this season, so I think they're amping up to kill some of the others off.
Maybe. I don't know. But here's the problem, is I don't care, and I really should, and that's a problem. And, you know, maybe this first episode of this back to the season is so good, it'll rope me back in, but, like, I don't know why, and I just got to shrug my shoulders and say, I don't know, it's your fault. I don't care. Which is a terrible thing to do as a viewer. But as somebody who loved the comics, I'm just falling out of love with the TV show, and I hate that.
I liked this episode until the very end. At the very end, there's another bit of Rick losing his marbles, and I just don't buy it. I don't know why. It just doesn't ring true to me.
That was awful. And even how they had them react to it and how they cut it, I didn't like that at all. And it was just that whole hallucination of him going crazy. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes next week. But the end definitely got a bit meh.
I was okay with it up until then, though. I liked the the way Merle got herded back into the group and then immediately poisoned it again. I mean, that's classic Merle.
Like, we got to deal with this asshole again for the rest of the season, but then he's gone shortly after.
Well, and I'll tell you what, man, it's I don't know. Like, I mean, to me, biased, obviously, but Michael Rooker is like the greatest shining gem of that entire show. And it's like every minute that Michael Rooker's not on screen, I'm like, well, what is Michael Rooker doing right now? I mean, he just has a presence that just overshadows everyone else around him. And it's like, maybe that's why I've gotten so mad is watching this weak sauce milquetoast version of the governor just stand there right in front of Merle freaking Dixon, you know?
Why are you biased?
What's that?
You said you're biased about him.
Disclaimer. This is we've had Michael Rooker several times on my other show, NSFW, who's always a character and a lot of fun. NSFW, Tuesday nights here on Twit.
Nice plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, for one thing, I watched the show and I felt like for the first time I didn't care if it diverged from the comic book. I've given that up. I don't care anymore. I just want it to be a good show, and I enjoyed it. I thought that it moved along, and we positioned ourselves into an interesting situation in the prison. There's lots of possibilities, lots of paths, but I know what you're saying, Brian, which is a lot of those paths are bad paths that they shouldn't go down, and you're too burned.
I am. I'm an abused little fanboy who's just been slapped around. My heart is guarded now, and I blame you, television.
You know what's one of the cool things,
Dana.
Glenn is one of my favorite characters all time in the book. He's becoming an entirely different character, and it really shows in this episode. And the guy Steve Young, funny that he's called Steve Young, who plays Glenn, was on The Talking Dead afterwards, really explaining the thought that goes into what he is doing. And it made the character make a lot more sense. He's like, this is a character who is playing the part of a friend of a victim. And because of that, he's becoming controlling, overbearing, and irrational.
Interesting. I will watch this episode. I'm not giving up on the show. I'm just saying I'm guarded in my heart, in my zombie heart. My zombie heart is squirting I guess
doubt.
Is it you don't care? Apathy. I'm squirting apathy through my zombie heart.
Stab him in the apathy. The only way to get him.
We need a transfusion of apathy stat. Somebody get a copy of Slacker in here.
Give me 20 cc's of interest. All right.
Wow. It's weird to do a spoiler zone when I haven't seen it. But
yeah, I find myself dancing around stuff anyway, even though you've said go ahead and spoil it, because I
really don't care. And I'm sad to say that, but I'll watch it anyway.
All right. Well, anything else from you, Dana?
No. Are you guys watching The Americans?
Dude, I hear great things about The Americans. Want to watch it very badly.
I watched the first episode, and I think I got 2 and 3 recorded, or maybe it's just 2. But I think I heard it might get canceled already.
What?
Already?
Yeah, I heard some speculation about that, but who knows? Because the numbers, I guess, were hurting. I could be wrong, but I hope not, because it's a really good idea, and I think that if they continue the path that they're on, it could be turned. It's very similar to The Riches. Remember The Riches?
Yeah, sure.
Russians living here in America, and they're spies, but living like a regular family. And then one of the FBI agents that's hunting Russian spies lives across the street from them, and it's all in the 80s.
Yeah,
it's really cool idea. So I hope.
Yeah, and to listen to Tom tell it, it sounds like one of its strongest points is just the execution is so well done. It doesn't overplay the fact that it's in the 1980s. It makes you comfortable in that land. It's just the backdrop. It's not overstated.
No, it's not. It's just the cars and the outfits and some of the backgrounds. There's no cell phones. They can't pick up and call somebody when something's going down. But I thought a little bit of it was hokey when they were doing like some of the car chases and the fighting. I thought that was a bit hokey, but once they get settled down in the interiors of the house and some of the home
Wait a
life.
minute, that's the exact scene that Tom loved. He was talking about it last week.
Yeah, you know what I loved about that was the fact that they used Tusk through the car chase, and I thought it was well used because I hate that song. I'm like, actually, this is what this song should be. It should be the bed for a car chase. It's perfect.
Hokey for me.
No getting out of it, Tom. Dana hates it. You loved it.
I loved it. I can't help it. I loved it.
So movie fighting, it was like throwing him against the wall, and then he's down, and then he's up. People don't fight that way.
No, but they did in the 80s.
Well spoken, sir. All right, let's wrap this thing up, man. This is a great time. Thank you so much, Dana. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks again, Dana.
Guys, I'll talk to you later.
Right,
dude, how great is it that Dana is like so cool and really did seem to hang it with us and stuff? That's pretty awesome.
Nice to have somebody who's in a position to comment on the news because he's part of it, but also is just a really good guest host.
Well, and I dug that he was able to directly address the product placement allegations on there, and be straight up, because I felt, he's a friend of the show, so I didn't want to sideline him with journalist question, but I felt like he would be able to hit it directly, which he did.
Yeah, amazing. I agree.
Hey guys, people are asking if we're going to do Weird Things live tonight. I doubt it, although I might do it live from the car. I have like a 3-hour drive back to San Diego because my flight's at 6 a.m. tomorrow. And we're going to go grab a bite to eat, Tom, and maybe hook up with one Jeff Canada. Jeff Canada. Oh, Canada. Your insights for science fiction. So that's all going on. And I'm going to hang up now and come downstairs and tickle you.
Yeah, come on down.
This is how long you have.
Oh, and that was it. No ceremony there. All right.
You'll see him again, folks.
That's right. And I'll see you again tomorrow, Tom.
In the flesh.
In real life.
I'll be wearing a flesh suit.
Good.
Over my flesh. Made of Brian Brushwood skin.
It's not helping. It's not helping. Cool.
Oh, here he is now. I wasn't kidding.
All right.
It just hurt.
Once I said it, I had to try it. How about this be your set right now? I'll
just hang back there.
Whoa, you got Brian Brushwood as part of your green screen. That is awesome.
Yeah, what about like this?
It's a CG Brushwood as part of my screen.
Here, drop some sights on them.
Well, see, the physics of electrons are such that they exist in shells that are said to orbit a science? No? Okay. Never mind. I like that. I can be confident in what I'm saying is working. I want one of these. Just be like, okay, is this part good? Is this funny? Oh no, that's not okay. Veer away.